When it comes to healing, transformation, growth, success, us human beings tend to have this belief that it is a very straight and linear path. We believe that if we had some formula or given some direction, that just like a GPS that brings us to a destination, we'll get straight there. And that if we don't get straight there, if we don't heal quickly, if we don't reach the levels of success that we are desiring in our minds quickly, if we don't grow quickly, then there must be something wrong with us. But when you look outside at nature, when you look at the galaxies of the universe, when you look at the spirals in your eyes, when you look at the top of a pine cone, when you look at the sun and the moon, everything that is part of the law of nature works in cycles, circles, spirals, not a straight line. And because we have been equipped with brains, which is our most powerful weapon as human beings, where our brain can limit us from being able to see more clearly or from being able to understand ourselves more clearly, is that we make up many different stories and we believe those stories. One of the stories is that we're not allowed to slow down and rest and care for ourselves. And if we do, then we should feel guilty. Another of those stories is that we are not allowed to take it easy on ourselves. That the more pressure that we apply, the faster that we go, and the more that we grind, the better off we're going to be. And there's this very powerful story that we don't have enough time. I've seen from my students who are over 50 years old that say, I just feel like I don't have enough time to do all the things that I want to do, and I feel like my time is running out. And interestingly enough, I've heard students in their 20s that say the same exact thing. And so as a human race, we've bought into this belief that we don't have enough time. I remember thinking this myself, in my early 20s, when I felt like there was so much pressure to get things done right, especially being the daughter of an immigrant, being a first-generation American. I felt like I was setting the stage and being a role model to everybody else around me, like my younger siblings. I felt this pressure, this immense pressure to do things right the first time while trying to figure out who the heck am I? And that pressure eventually led me to a place of complete burnout. And I learned the hard way that a lot of pressure that we apply on ourselves and the limitations that we believe around time is self-imposed. It's self-imposed because we don't know that this has been part of our conditioning for such a long time. For such a long time, society taught us through movies, through magazines, through things that we learned in school, that we have a limited amount of time, right? A limited amount of time to get through school, a limited amount of time to get through college. And if you don't complete it in that limited amount of time, then you're somewhat considered a failure. So unconsciously, we've been programmed at a very young age to believe that if we don't do things a certain way, in the way that everyone else does it, in the time frame that everyone else does, then we are going to fail. And so we spend so much of our lives revving up our nervous system, overly stimulating ourselves, and trying to keep up with a pace that doesn't even exist, trying to keep up with the standards of society. And it's just a mere illusion. And so the question becomes, how do we bring ourselves back into this space where we begin to tune into the cyclical ways and laws of nature. We begin to tune so deeply back into our own nature that we remember how it is that we are meant to operate in the world. You see, because your way of operating in the world, your way of living and being in the world is completely different and unique than anywhere else, anyone or anything else that you have seen. And that's why sometimes when you try to keep up with the pace of everything else around you but yourself, you try to keep up this outward pace, it feels like you are treading water. And if this is something that resonates with you, then it's a sign that you are being guided to go back into trusting your own inner wisdom. Trusting that just like the trees behind me, that just like the sun and just like the moon, just like the seasons, we operate in a cyclical nature. I mean, even if you were to cut a tree trunk right now, you can look inside of that tree trunk and you can see a circular pattern. So why is it that us, being species that also live here on Earth, subject ourselves to do things in a very straight and linear fashion? As if we miss the mark or if we don't go on that line in that limited amount of time, that we are failures. So a really powerful way to bring yourselves back into a place of being in tune with your own energy, your own unique way of operating and of being in the world in a way that feels more wholesome and enriching and nurturing to you, is by taking the time to understand what your rhythm looks like and allowing yourself to trust it. I use the word allowing because oftentimes we don't allow, we deny. We deny that we feel burnt out, we feel tired, we feel exhausted. We pretend to live a life that is a life that we're supposed to be living, not the life that we actually desire to live for ourselves. And so allowing means that you are letting it happen in a way where you are surrendering control. Now, this doesn't mean to give up. It means to put effort in being on the path that is completely unique to you. And that does take effort. It takes effort to allow yourself to trust your own rhythm. Think about the mind and how many times within one day that it tries to justify that, no, this is the right thing to do. No, you gotta be moving this way. You gotta be going this fast. It's what everyone else is doing, right? And so you're playing with that. That's what's coming up in the back of your mind. And so the effort is in teaching yourself, teaching your mind, being kind to yourself, being compassionate to yourself, and teaching it that actually there is another way. We don't have to suffer anymore. We don't have to move through life in pain, in attachment to all the things and people and places and stories that no longer serve us. We can do differently. And when we have that loving conversation with ourselves, we are acknowledging in that moment how aware we can become. And the more aware that you can become, the more proud of yourself you should become. Because awareness is key to transformation. So I hope today serves you as a loving and gentle reminder that your path of growth, of transformation, of healing, and of self-realization is a path that is completely unique to you. And however it is that you are naturally feeling drawn to live, to serve, to eat, to play, to talk, to be, is completely unique to you. And that has never been done before. So can you trust yourself enough to allow that to emerge into the world? I always say self-care is being self-aware. So what you're aware of in this moment is going to look different the next moment. There is no straight line to follow, only a circular path. And isn't that why we call it the circle of life? Because it is anything but a straight line. I'm sending you all my love. Take precious care of this moment, and it will take care of your next moment.